Here in the studio to deliberate more on the rising food inflation in the country, an agriculturalist with a very interesting name, African farmer. Mogaji, it's good to have you join us in the studio this morning. Of course, this is a topic that a lot of persons are pretty concerned about. Food, which is something very important for a lot of persons. The food inflation is now at its highest in 12 years. For you, this seems to be an overriding problem. Yeah. How dire the situation?
Well, for 2021, it's something we should be really concerned about. We should be concerned, prior to last week, we've had the climate change, the insurgency, kidnappings, and the elder farmer clash, and now the average Nigerian mindset, which is tribalistic, basically. You're talking about, the various tribes of a country. So last week brought a new dimension of, let me use the word, food war, which unfortunately is going to disrupt many things. It's just going to make some farmers who made losses, because it's the farmers that made losses. The farmers who made losses will be very careful, knowing that there might be some reprisal policies coming up. So if they now relent in production, coupled with the fact that the number of farmers producing has reduced, then we have a tough issue ahead of us.
Very interesting. At a point, I didn't even think that far, because as a farmer, of course, you know that last week we saw the strike happen. We went to the markets. Of course, increase with people had the money, but they didn't have the goods to buy. And farmers, the tomato farmers, for instance, said they lost about 10 billion naira. Even farmers here, traders here, are saying they lost also millions of naira. Let's take a look at the rippling effect. Do you think the government policy is enough to cushion that effect?
Policies. You see, because the middlemen they are too strong, to have that position in their hands. What that means is that if the current government's political opponent has the favor of those people, they will use it against them. And that's a weapon, food war is a weapon that should not come into place at all. So that association needs to be decentralized. The farmer, we need to pay attention more to the farmer. We need to break that chain of food movement, because they just woke up and didn't care about the farmers. So bottom line is that, we need to break that hold. If not, with climate change coming in, we've had almost no rainfall this year, almost none, and ideally we should have, some pockets of rain. So if we have this going, if we don't nip this mindset or this too much power given to this set of people, we would have some crisis in our hands.
So you're saying there's a problem with the food system? That's the value chain.
There's a huge problem with the food system. One, they're not willing to change. Two, they are not dynamic. And three, they're looking at themselves and not, the value chain. Value chain in terms of producers and consumers. Anything they do affects the farmers. If the farmers are discouraged, we'll go into, hard food security. If the consumers don't get the food to buy, it may lead to another unrest. So they don't understand the power they have.
So take a look at what you just said right now. The fact that an association seems to have the power, and they do not even understand how to manage that power that they wield. Talk to us about how effective you think the CBN Anchor Borrowers program, for instance, will be in the long run in all of this.
Yes, so thus far, the Anchor Borrower has been effective based on the design, the original design. However, going forward, every good project initiative needs to be reappraised, needs to be scaled more lower. So we have, it's mostly people with, large farmer networks that really access the funding. We need it to now have small, medium, and large, such that it can trickle down. because now you're finding farmers being displaced. And so even now, so what happens to the farmer that you have livestock consume their farms? Even though part of it is insured, but will that farmer want to participate again? So it's been effective toss till now, but going forward, it needs to be really overhauled. And we need them to move the Anchor Bora project to other, sectors, like the permanent crops. You see, there's a mindset around here in Nigeria where it's always very quick, very sharp, short term. But however, the longer the planning, the better. Because right now, last year, 2021 was, just in the pipeline. But now we're there. So the realities are changing. And so these policies also need to evolve to a better one.
Let me take you a bit away from the situation that is immediate to us. Let's talk about the AFCTA agreements that we just signed. A lot of persons would have thought it was a New Year gift, and would benefit a lot from that trade agreement. Do you see it having an effect on agriculture in any way?
Well, everything is still in the potential. But the policies to drive the structures that can sustain it, it's not there. And we're not seeing it. So it's not likely to pay us. Ghana has a better structure. Even Burkina Faso, Cameroon, all of them have structures that, just like that. You tap your finger, they can either scale or reduce. Take, for instance, Egypt took a decision to reduce rice production because they saw that they will be having water supply issues. So it was crucial for them to get water to people as against to rice farm. So that deliberate decision that we're going to reduce it made Nigeria the biggest rice producer in Africa. However,
we're still the largest importer.
Yeah, largest importer. But they can wake up tomorrow and say, okay, fine, we've solved this water issue. Now let's produce again. And automatically they will be the leading again because we have not developed that structure. We've taken the opportunity, but we've not developed structure to sustain the scale. So it's
we're still back to square one.
Yeah, back
if
to
anything
square
happens.
one.
So on a final note, what are your expectations for this year? Already we know that the pandemic has disrupted a lot of things coming from last year till January this year. Infection rate is running low. There's a lot of vaccines. Hopefully that will change the dynamics in the market. But do you see the economy maintain the growth that it recorded in the GDP?
Yes, so we're likely to have a better growth. Basically because of that hoarding of food. Why? Yeah, because regions are going back to regional production. Yeah. And because we're going back to regional production, the value chain of processing and co will develop, and so that's very crucial in the conversation. What happened last week was negative, but the positive side
of course,
is
it was
that
a wake-up call.
It's a wake-up call.
For a state like Lagos, for
instance. For a state like
Lagos.
And I'm happy Lagos is on top of this game now to say, hey, we're restructuring. We must get this thing done. And Lagos State is involved in a lot of programs, engaging stakeholders now. And so I see a lot of food security happening by the end of the year if we keep this momentum.
Let's talk about your project. I understand that you'll be having a forum.
Yes, yes. So this weekend, we're bringing the former group managing director of Odua, group of companies. The one, he implemented almost all the projects under Awolowo when we were at least fairly 30% livestock sufficient, all those agri projects, the Commissioner of Agriculture, Lagos State. We're bringing a professor of soil scientist. Most of those people are above 70. To begin to have, can we go back to original plan?
Which is from oil to soil.
Oil to soil conversation. So if we know what has happened before, take for instance, Chief Mogaji told me over the weekend that the back of cashew, we were using it to make brake pads in Oyo State. The back of cashew. Gure, water leaf. They were using it in Ondo State to coat the ceramics, the tiles. And General Babangida launched that factory. So it's not something in the Awo's regime, era. So we need to get back. We need to bring people who can tell the story so it can inspire new people. So this weekend, we're bringing them together virtually for people to be able to know what had happened before and catch a vision of what can happen next.
Hopefully that conversation will indeed spur us and inspire young persons to go into agriculture more. Agriculturalist African farmer. Mortgage, thank you so much for joining us on Tuesday Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.
That's Business News this hour. The program continues